the women in Jenkins, Kentucky rolled up their sleeves and formed the Women's Civics Club in 1936. In 1937, the Women's Civics Club was federated into the national organization. The club held drives for the community welfare. The goal was to keep Jenkins a model community and help the educational and cultural development of the town. Members of this organization held fundraisers that helped with the unique needs of the community. Needs were met with the hospital, with the club donating $500 one year to the Sharon Heights Hospital. Donations also included the Jenkins Band Boosters Club of the Jenkins High School and other needed equipment to the school. An annual scholarship to one outstanding student from the Jenkins High School was also part of the community work. For the driver's education department, the Women's Club gave a cup trophy to the most courteous driver of the class. One year the club also adopted 20 children at the Old Baptist Orphanage that was located near Jenkins. 2 of the members volunteered to be foster mothers to one child. The children who were adopted received clothing and other gifts. Members of the club also decorated the town Christmas tree on Main Street and delivered food baskets to the needy of the area. They also sent cigarettes to the Veterans Hospital. The Women's Club also staged an annual holiday home decoration contest. In August of every year, the Women's Club would have an all-day street carnival with the purpose of raising money to build and maintain a library and to fund other club activities. In keeping with the circus theme, members would don baggy pants, grease face paint, and dress as clowns. As part of the ongoing theme, there were booths, a variety show, clowns, games, and a country store. The Women's Club, with the aid of the local Girl Scouts chapter, went door to door soliciting for used books. New books were purchased from the projects that the Women's Civics Club had sponsored. The library was open one night a week at the beginning, with 50 books being loaned out to members of the community on the first night. Meetings were held at the time in the basement of the Methodist Church, then moved to the town's Boy Scout cottage because the owners of the building did not want it used as a library. The books were then placed in storage in various places because there was no heat in the Boy Scout cottage. Consolidation Coal Company decided to move its offices to a new building, and the coal company granted for the club to hold their meetings in one of the older office buildings. A kitchen and a lodge served as the clubhouse for the ladies, and the library now had 3 large rooms. In 1951, this building was renovated for the usage for the library and the clubhouse for the ladies. When the books were being moved into their new space, it was discovered that 400 books had become wet and had water damage and could no longer be used. The women's members rallied with more books and drives. Bake sales, tag days, style shows, bridge parties, and carnivals were held to raise money for the new books to replace those that had been damaged. None of the women in the club had training in the library, and 2 librarians from the Jenkins High School and the other from the Pikeville Library helped the women to choose which books to order. They also taught them how to catalog, repair books when needed, and process them for circulation. On April 1, 1951, the Jenkins Public Library opened its doors with 800 books on the shelves. The first book to be checked out of the library that day was Trail of the Lonesome Pine by John Fox, Jr. By the end of 1951, the Women's Civics Club had established a permanent free public library, with the club paying the librarian salary of $1 a day. There were 4,000 books on the shelves. For the next 3 years, the Jenkins Library was the only library in Letcher County. It was run on a volunteer basis except for a librarian who was on shift 2 hours a day and paid $1 each day. The volunteers did janitorial work as well as repaired books to keep them in circulation. During this time, the Kentucky General Assembly began holding discussions on giving much-needed aid to libraries that were run in rural areas of the state. The Jenkins Women's Civics Club sent out letters and made telephone calls, sent delegates to Frankfort to try to sway the Assembly, which did happen, and aid was sent. The Kentucky Library Extension Division in 1961 sent 50 new books and a large picture to the Jenkins Library. They would be commended to the governor's office for their efforts. The Jenkins Library was one of 10 libraries that were recognized that year for the National Library Week. Also in 1961, the Kentucky Library Extension Division also advised the Jenkins Library that it needed to become part of the Letcher County library system. In doing so, it would be eligible to participate in the latest programs for that part of the state. A new head office was going to be established in Pikeville, Kentucky for that area. The Jenkins Library Board within the Women's Civics Club voted to become part of the Letcher County library system. The head office in Pikeville, Kentucky did not happen at that time as Pikeville refused to join the public library system. Jenkins was then offered to be the regional library if the physical court would appropriate $800 for the project. The physical court agreed with a unanimous vote. However, state funds would be delayed. The state library then gave Jenkins several hundred books. In October of 1961, Jenkins entered the Dorothy, Canfield, Fisher Library Contest that was being held by the State Book of the Month Club and won first prize of $5,000 to purchase new books. They won for being the best and one of the smallest and hardest working libraries in the United States. Consolidation Coal Mines had sold to Bethlehem Mines Corporation during this time to become the Beth Elkhorn Corporation. Beth Elkhorn had agreed to furnish the library with a space within their new building. This new space was to be 3 times larger than the space the library had previously occupied. New book covers were placed on books. School children helped to move the library to the new building. The room was redecorated for the opening. The Library Extension Division even bought needed new books with the understanding that the prize money would go to them to pay for the purchase of the books. On April 8, 1962, was the presentation day of the Dorothy Canfield Fisher Library Contest Prize to the library. The Book of the Month Club sent Chairman Harry Schweisman along with 6 other members to the luncheon on the day. There were 150 library friends in attendance. The Master of Ceremonies was Mr. Archie Kraft. The principal speaker was John Mason Brown, who was a noted Kentucky author at that time. Among the noted and distinguished guests were Senator Thurston B. Morton, Mr. and Mrs. Samuel Cassidy, Janice Holt Giles, and Chloe Gifford. Later that year, Jenkins became the headquarters for the Pine Mountain Regional Library in Kentucky. The regional librarian was Mr. Don Ambergy. His office would later be moved to Whitesburg. Several years later, a bookmobile was added to provide the library service to those living out in the county. This reached areas where travel was difficult to many shut-ins and elderly people. A 5% county library tax was passed by the Letcher County Fiscal Court. This tax needed to be passed for the regional library to continue to receive state aid. This money helps to fund new books and to keep the bookmobile on the road. Over the years, new electronic equipment and shelving has been added. Computers, modern furniture, as well as over 28,000 books with other additions to the library can be found there. Jenkins Library also has its own building found in downtown Jenkins, Kentucky. Thank you for watching our video on the history of the Women's Civics Club and the first library in Letcher County, Kentucky. We thank you for your continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we bring you the history of the Appalachian Mountains. Please like, subscribe, and share below. Also hit the bell for notifications of future videos. And once again, be sure to leave us a "Hey y'all" in the comment section below. Thank you for continuing to support us and watch our videos.